Let's assume that you are an ordinary person living in 1000 BC. One day, in a very short lifespan of yours, you wonder what is the shape of this giant rock in which you are living. So you climb a mountain, looked at the horizon. From here, you observe that the earth is flat, with a circular horizon making complete 360 degrees. Now for the next observation, you observe the sky above you. Everything seemed to rise from one end and set in the opposite end. So you came to the conclusion that the earth is circular flat disk with a dome. Now we do know it's a wrong conclusion, but for this year in history, it's a decent observation. This kind of reasoning is called abduction in philosophy, where you observe the environment to form simplest possible explanation for what you observe. But clearly the simplest explanation in this case is wrong. So where did we make mistake? Well, to begin with, abduction relies on available information in hand, which won't be always accurate, and the simplest possible explanation is not always the right explanation, especially in the cases where information is not accurate. So now a question relies upon us: how do we get to the truth? The answer to that is science. While in philosophy we ask interesting questions about nature and tries to answer them with rationalization, science does all that, but also confirms the explanation with empirical evidence. In rationalization, we take the information that we have to use logic and reason, which we develop from the prior knowledge to make sense of the information that we have. But for empiricism, we rely heavily on the measurements that we do with our senses and measuring devices or detectors in an experiment to form a conclusion. Let's look at another hypothetical example. Imagine while you're watching this video, every object in your surroundings starts hovering in the air. At this point, the rational part of your brain is thinking this can't be true, because your prior knowledge tells you that objects cannot disobey the law of gravity. But the detector, which is your eyes in this case, measures the position of these objects, which disagrees with the rational part of your brain. So, which one should we trust in this situation? Rationalism or empiricism? Because both methods have its disadvantages. Rationalism depends on the accuracy of the prior knowledge. If the knowledge is not trustworthy, then the logic used to get to the conclusion won't be correct. As for the empiricism, if the detector is faulty or unreliable, then we cannot trust the measurement. So that's basically the reason when we investigate the nature, it's not a good idea to completely rely on one of the two methods. That's why science uses the combination of both, rationalism and empiricism. If there is a measurement which contradicts the well-established knowledge about the nature, like gravity, we should trust the established knowledge, because this knowledge has been heavily tested under different conditions. It doesn't mean that established knowledge can never be challenged, but you require really strong evidence for that. In our example, a single measurement from an eye cannot rule out well-established laws of nature, like gravity. As we know, our eyes are not so reliable, so if we see objects disobeying the laws of gravity, chances are that we are the one hallucinating rather than the laws of nature. That's the reason why in science, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, empirical evidence to be precise. But this doesn't mean that philosophers who only use rationalism are of no use, because this statement is not exactly true. It is true that philosophy doesn't bother with collecting empirical evidence while trying to answer a question, but in order to rationalize anything, we need information and knowledge, which can only be acquired by empiricism. It's just not possible to rationalize anything from a blank slate. We do need the initial observation to initiate any form of investigation about the nature, which concludes that all scientists are philosophers, but not all philosophers are scientists. But due to the current limitations of science, it's just not possible to use empiricism for every question about the nature. Like, what is consciousness? What is the best moral philosophy for human civilization? What is the meaning of life? Or is there any meaning of life? Obviously, we are not going to get any satisfying answer for a lot of these questions, because we don't know everything, but that's okay. It means that there is a progress to be made, and maybe that's what gives life meaning. Whether you like science or philosophy, the key thing to make progress in any of these fields is to ask questions. You might end up making a lot of mistakes along the line, but you will learn from your mistakes, because that's how we progress. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it to be useful, like and share this video, and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. I will be making videos on science and philosophy every week. I hope to see you next time. Until then, keep questioning.